cheaper. So people across the country were then able to afford shoes. And you say today, well, yeah, I want a new pair of shoes every 3 to 4 months. Not the case. People worked hard. Those shoes had to last a very long time, usually a year or two. So his invention made it possible for people to continue to do the work that they had to do during that time, and it made it cheaper so that everyone could afford shoes. Very, very important invention and a really important man. He also created the nailing machine. And if you know any constructors, it's hard to, by hand build a house. But with that nailing machine, you actually can staple those nails in, put them in the beams, and just keep going. So homes that are built now, if you pass by and there's not a building, 3 months later you pass by, there's a building, it's because of that nailing machine and how fast people are able to work with it. So in addition to the shoe machine, he also created the nail machine. He is also an individual that I want you to remember that against all odds, wasn't born in this country, worked hard, came to America, became a citizen, and had this wonderful creation that has made our lives, we know it today, we're not paying $300 and $400 for a pair of shoes. He made it possible for everyone at that time to be able to afford shoes. That was Louis Lasser. Next inventor, Granville T. Wood. As we talked about earlier, the train was the sole means of transportation across the country. So any invention that dealt with travel was really, really important during that time. And you have to understand that although people travel by train, there was also horse and buggy still on the road. And there were also bicycles on the road at that time. So cars were new, but they had to compete with other modes of transportation. So if you can imagine, if Miss Waters has her train and she's going and she's trying to get to California and she's picking up speed, and here I am, I'm trying to get across the country, and I'm trying to pick up speed and get my package where it needs to go. What is the one thing that may happen that's a danger if we're crossing paths? Yeah, we may wreck. Our trains may bump into each other. And there's a wreck. Her supplies are lost, my supplies are lost. And then, these things were made by hand, as we talked about, so it wasn't as easy as it is today to just say, go pick up some more packages. No, those goods were lost. But because of Granville T. Wood's invention, train engineers were able to communicate to each other. So I'll be able to tell Ms. Waters, I'm coming through, you better slow up or go on another track. So those accidents weren't happening after this invention. And that mode of communication on a single wire, they were able to communicate. This was a time, there were no cell phones, there were no telephones. If you think about it, the communication was done by telegraph. So he created a means of communication where engineers communicate, and it saved thousands of lives. Those persons working on the trains, those persons driving the train, loading the trains that would also travel with the train, their lives were saved because engineers were able to communicate to each other